Hey everyone, in a few weeks, Lent, the 40 days leading up to Easter, will begin. And at Midtown Community Church, we have decided, along with centuries of Christians before us, to mark the start of the Lenten season with an Ash Wednesday service. Now, we know this is a new thing for many of you. It's a new thing for me as well. And so we wanted to take a second and introduce the idea to all of you.
Listen to Eugene Peterson tell of this time that he visited a Benedictine monastery in New Mexico. He says this: "One of the monks was leading us on a path from prayers in the chapel to the refectory where we would have lunch. The path led through the cemetery. We passed an open grave. Jan, Eugene's wife, said, 'Oh, did one of the brothers just die?' And the monk replied, 'No, that's for the next one.'" Right? 3 times a day, on their way from praying together to eating together, the monks would be reminded that one of them would be the next one. And they did this not because they had this morbid obsession with death. They did this because they knew that the things of life find their proper proportion in the face of things of death. Like when we think about our mortality and how short our lives are, what is truly important tends to rise to the surface. And the sad thing about our fast-paced, distracted, consumption-obsessed culture is that most people don't really get to experience this wisdom from death until they're on their deathbed looking death in the face. And it'll only be then that they will look at their life from the perspective of death and think to themselves, at the end of it all, I've wasted it. I've spent my years pouring my heart and soul into things that don't really matter. Now, we don't want that to be the case for anyone at Midtown Community Church. We want to live lives of significance, meaning, and hope, even in the face of inevitable death. And we're convinced that one of the best ways to do that is to stop every once in a while and reflect on our own mortality.
Yeah, and that's where our Ash Wednesday service comes in. So on February 14th at 5 p.m., we're going to gather in the sanctuary for our first ever Ash Wednesday service. And the point of this service is to look into the darkness of our own mortality, to reflect on our lives, and in the face of that, to cling to the death-defying hope of the gospel. And we're going to put ashes on our foreheads to remind each other that we are dust and that we will return to the dust. And we'll worship together to remind each other that death in Jesus no longer has the final say.
With this service, just 2 quick encouragements. First, listen, we know that this service is on Valentine's Day. We didn't plan it this way. This is kind of how it fell out according to the liturgical calendar, so we're also not apologizing for it. I actually think that an evening of reflecting on the brevity of your lives together is probably much better for your relationship than any overpriced candlelit dinner could possibly be, right? One of you will bury the other. And so how important really are those little arguments about the dishwasher and the laundry? And besides, reservations will be easier to get later in the week anyway.
Yeah. And second, we know that this is a new thing for most of you. Like I said, it's new for me too. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. You can also feel free, depending on where your conscience leads with this particular service, to participate in the Ash Wednesday service to the degree that you feel comfortable. It's not a command in Scripture to honor this day, and when we observe Ash Wednesday, we're not following anything particular from the Bible, but we think it is a really helpful practice that arises from biblical principles. You'll hear more about this in the coming weeks, but for now, feel free to check out the FAQ document that's attached to this email, and please let us know if you have any questions. We love you guys, and we hope to see you there on February 14th.